Bernie up on the streaming platform, she was singing Britney Spears, which is like my favorite. I'm not that innocent. Okay, let's take it down a notch. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I am drinking a coffee with MCT oil in it. What is your beverage of choice at the moment?
I got water, I got coffee, and I got a Bang energy drink. But at least I have water. That's healthy.
I got my lemon water too. I heard that's an ADHD thing when you have like 13 different drinks because you want to hydrate, you want to caffeinate, you want to this, you want to that, you want to bubble, you want to flat. So
Yeah.
I was like, oh, well, that's kind of like my life. Especially like, you have a coconut, you have all of the things. All right.
Yes.
I'm really glad everybody is here today. We have a really great episode today, and it is all about powerlessness. You are not powerless. That is my belief. Now, really, what anything that I'm doing when it comes to deprogramming AA is sparking a conversation to see what all of the people think, right? I've decided for myself what's true for me. And this is like a journey of us all figuring out what we feel is true for us. Like, I'm no longer in recovery. I don't believe in powerlessness or a disease model or spiritual malady or that I'm sick or anything like that, or that I'm fundamentally different from my fellows, except maybe with the ADHD and autism. But I don't believe the AA ideology. And this is definitely not about you thinking like me. This is about you thinking like you and you waking up to what you think. And I do that best when I immerse myself in other people's thoughts and I look at the research. And then I also talk with other people who are currently deprogramming, like Tara Grace, burn the stigma. What's up, Tara Grace?
I love that though, because it's so true. It's like, this is my opinion, right? Like, this is how I feel about it. And it's been awesome to connect with other people who are going down their deprogramming journey who also feel similar. I think that we all have slightly different opinions on certain things. And I think that that's great. And I think we bring all of that to the table and to the conversation. And I have learned so much from other people, like taking in what they've said, something they've read. I've gone back and looked into it myself. And the freedom that comes with being able to even think about something and not just being handed like, hey, this is you're an addict, so this is what you got to live by. This is all about you. You're selfish, you're self-seeking, you're all these things. This is what you have to work on, your character defects. Like, it's all wide open. And I fucking love that.
Yeah. And I love it when people say in the comments, I don't agree with everything that you say, but da 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 da. And I think that goes without saying. That's probably everybody's experience. Well, actually, there's been a few comments that say, I agree with everything that you say. But I think the reality is we're not going to agree with everything everybody else says. And that's the wonderful world of fucking critical thinking. It's like, yes, we are looking at all of the resources available to us with the time that we have, with the brain power we have, with the desire that we have, right? And then figuring out what makes sense to us and making our plans forward based upon that and consciously choosing what makes sense to us. So really great to have you here. We have Melissa is saying morning. Good morning, Melissa. We have
Melissa.
369. 369 is saying last Sunday of the year. Have you seen that thing, those memes that are like, today everybody in middle school goes 6-7. Back in my day, we were like 369. Isn't that what it was? To the window. Okay, last Sunday of the year should be interesting. And then we have come here too early, 14 hours early. Blue, well, welcome back if you make it back. Keep coming back to the Bernie and Bessie if you feel like it. You already know. To the wall. Okay. So I wanted to kick us off with a couple of things that I've read in some of the books that we love about deprogramming and deconstructing 12-step ideology, because I think when we hear from some of the doctors and PhDs who have been doing this work in addiction, like MDs and stuff like that, who've been doing the work in the addiction field for decades and decades and decades, they are a wealth of information for us. If they've been working with clients and individuals, they have so much information that they can, it gives me the chills, plus all of the research that they have thoroughly vetted and gotten to the point where they're in a way risking their careers or reputation by actively saying that AA is harmful. So there's so much we can learn from these people. And the first thing that I wanted to I see Cassandra. What's up, Cassandra? Hey. The first one I wanted to read from is this one, resisting 12-step coercion. Don't worry, I'm not going to read much, but I think it would be a good kicking off point for the comments. And just to kind of get us in a line with what some of these professionals are saying. Has anybody read this book? Let us know in the comments. Resisting 12-step coercion. So on the idea of powerlessness and the disease concept, page 12 in the forward is actually by Charles Booth, which I believe he wrote the book AA Cult or Cure. Okay, so he says, the AA members are a very anti-intellectual organization in which questioning is considered a, quote, disease symptom. And then when he goes on to the concept of disease and alcoholism, the disease concept of alcoholism is the cornerstone of 12-step treatment and is intimately tied to AA. In fact, it is largely a product of AA. There was someone named Jelinek. Has anybody heard of Jelinek when they were doing any sort of deconstruction research? So Jelinek, he wrote a book called The Disease Concept of Alcoholism in 1960. And it virtually, now I'm reading from here, virtually has no scientific value. Jelinek's, and this is why, this is so interesting on why he's saying that this disease concept work has no value. It's so fascinating to me. It's not on there's no matched comparison groups. It's not a longitudinal study. It's not even retrospective studies on a random sample of a population. So he's talking about how the study is not statistically valid and that it's, when we talk about like cherry picking data or something. So this is what actually the Jelinek guy did. He put a questionnaire in the Grapevine in AA's publication, AA's monthly magazine. So here, thus all of the replies Jelinek received came from self-selected AA members. So his big conclusion that AA or addiction is a disease came from a study that he solicited inside the Grapevine. So everyone he was reading about were AA members from the Grapevine. So he received 158 questionnaires and he threw away 60 of them. We don't do this in statistics. Basic stats, this. You don't just throw away the people who answer the study because you don't like them or you don't think they're valid. No, you look at all the data, like 100%. And this is basic stats. Y'all know I'm a statistician, right? As by training, but basic stats, that this is baloney. So he discarded 60 of the surveys because they were either completed by women. What the fuckery bullshittery is that? Can I get a what the fuck? So he didn't want to listen to women. They're not valid. Does that mean women don't have the disease? Is that what he's thinking? Okay. So he threw away all the studies that were completed by women, were incomplete, or had been completed by AA members who had pooled their answer. So he went on his conclusion that alcoholism is a disease was based on a small, exclusively male, self-selected sample of AA members. It's little wonder that the answers they gave Jelinek mirrored the view of alcoholism one finds virtually at every AA meeting. I mean, let's discuss.
We've seen a lot of what the fucks in the comments. Jesus.
So Melissa says, lol, well, that's a solid scientific study right there. Totally. Yeah, what the fuckery. We had Sarah saying what the fuck, and same with Melissa. Rick saying, yikes, thinking is a disease symptom. What the fuck? Actually, it's always a time. Someone told me today in the comment, they were like, I don't know what Mark Zuckerberg is doing on my Facebook page, but like somebody's sending not only their home group, but their entire like conference. Someone's sending all of like the AA conference to my personal Facebook page, and the trolls be trolling. And somebody said today, you're overthinking. I'm like, bro, it's called critical thinking.
I know, but I mean, that's that whole terminally unique, and that your best thoughts got you here, and that your thinking is broken. Like, we have a disease where our brain is broken. Like, that is what it's fundamentally all about. And just hearing all of this shit, it's just another, like everyone else is saying, WTF, dude.
Yeah, Rick is saying, here's a what the fuck for you.
Seriously.
Sarah's saying, it's so perfect that women lead the charge against the pseudoscience now. Haha, totally.
I'm
And Rick
saying
says, we were never overthinking. We were just thinking.
just a tad.
Yeah.
Just a tad. Mag said, I consider drinking over Christmas, but fear and stigma from family who know I'm sober stopped me. Didn't drink, but still curious whether I'm truly a pickle for life.
We are going to get into the pickle mythology later. I don't know if any of y'all saw the the thumbnail AI helped me do for this video about busting the pickle mythology. Yeah, it turns out there's science that show that the in AA they say the cucumber becomes a pickle, like we get alcohol pickles our brain essentially, and that you can never go back to a normal drinker, and that science may one day discover this, but they haven't yet. Well, they have discovered it. It's naltrexone in the Sinclair method, and that research shows that science shows that the pickle can become a cucumber again. You can become a normal drinker again. 78% of the people who try that method either abstain completely or lose interest in drinking, like to a point where they're, I guess it's problematic or alcohol use disorder.
Mm-hmm. Shanine said, I have a horde of people tell you the same exact thing, probably not working an honest program. Right, exactly.
I know when people say that in the comments to me, I'm like, you're right. You are 100% correct. I'm not working a program. Where the idea that I need to work a program from ever, I've deconstructed from that. Now, I was a little like, wanted to understand how I thought about that when I left AA, right, in 2020. But I'm not working a program because I don't need a program, because people living life don't need a program.
Right.
It's not a requirement to life.
Right. It's like when they find out that I use cannabis, they're like, oh, that explains it all. Like not only are you not working a program, but you're actively using. That's why you're so, crazy and saying all this madness. It's like, no.
There's a difference between, and that's why I love the word ad hominem. Because when I understand the logical fallacy ad hominem, which we've talked about a lot, right, is when you attack the person or the person making the argument instead of the actual argument. Nothing about me personally has anything to do with whether or not AA ideology is inherently harmful. So I could be totally drunk, never have even gone to AA, and still could have a valid argument about the harms inherent inside AA ideology. It's irrelevant, anything about me.
Yeah.
Vic says his best thinking got him here today. Yeah. Y'all want to hear a little bit of the sober truth? Another gem. So I just skimmed through some of my books to find where they were talking about the disease model so that we could have that powerlessness conversation today. So Jelinek, our buddy Jelinek, who only sampled AA Grapevine members, but threw out all the women because who cares what women think? So I don't know if that's just like women don't matter or if it's like women don't have the disease. I don't know what his decision was there. I'm going to assume that no, they have the disease too. They just don't get a voice. So Jelinek, I'm reading from The Sober Truth right now, which is by Lance Dodds, MD. Jelinek, an important figure in his own right, is considered the primary author of the, quote, disease theory of alcoholism, which holds that heavy drinking is in some substantive way different from other behaviors, that rather than being a behavior, it is in fact a gradual progressive disease analogous to other chronic medical illnesses. His model of inevitable deterioration was soon disproven. Jelinek ultimately distanced himself from it, but AA embraced it. So Jelinek wised up and was like, okay, science is disproving my disease idea, but AA obviously ran with it. It is perhaps unexpected that AA would fasten onto Jelinek's view, given that the physician model of alcoholism as a medical disease did not precisely comport with the organization's own model of alcoholism as a spiritual illness. Yeah, but it does play into the whole powerless narrative. So if you have a disease And it's not only a disease, it's progressive. So a lot of us heard, I certainly heard, that my disease is getting stronger even when I'm sober.
Yeah.
And that mythology has been busted through understanding the alcohol deprivation effect. Like when you're very, very thirsty and you go to drink, you might over drink, right? Or you're very, very hungry because you haven't eaten in a long time. You're going to there's a tendency to overeat. The same thing happens with drinking. So it's not that if you get drunk again after a period of abstinence, that your disease got stronger. It's the alcohol abstinence effect, where at first you drink more. It's been replicated in rats. And so that's all come from David Sinclair's lab. That's why I love the Sinclair method and really his research on alcohol addiction. It's so informative and busts a lot of these, 12-step cult religion mythology with just what the current data are showing.
Yeah, it's so funny though, because if you try to mention any of it to anybody, like they'll literally say, keep your data, keep your fact, keep all this. Like I live it, I live it. I see it every single day. This is what's in front of me. But it is one of those things, like when you are in those spaces, I do remember seeing things that looked like what they were telling me. But then when you actually leave the space and see that there's a whole wide world outside of that, it's like, holy shit,
Yeah. Kate says, what the fuck, Jelinek?
Yo, Jelinek, man. Christine said, I can't read today. Deprogramming is waking up to the truth, reclaiming your autonomy, thinking critically, trusting your intuition, and deconditioning indoctrination and raising awareness. Yes, I love that. Absolutely. Jim said, so at disease, I'm irritable and discontented, of course, because you're making stuff up.
100%. Bill was a master salesman. Let's give people credit for what they are. He sold us on an idea that natural human experiences of are you restless, irritable, or discontent? Guess what? That's called untreated alcoholism. And I got a cure. It's called my religious 12-step program. Restless, irritable, or discontented. That's untreated alcoholism. No, Bill, that's baloney. You're literally, oh, wait, are you awake? Are your eyes open? That's a disease, and I have a cure.
Seriously. And I remember hearing the doctor's opinion. I remember going through that and being like, oh my God, that is me. That totally explains me. This makes total sense. Like, this is why I'm such a mess. This is why I'm so bad at life. I felt like, and I was sold, baby. I mean, sucker. Like, I was totally sold on it.
Yeah. You want to take this one?
Sure. Aiden said, weed was the only thing that stopped my cravings. Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, it was huge for me to be able to smoke, and nothing. Like after that, I was like, oh, like I'm fine. I'm totally fine. Now at this point, weed is just part of my life because I enjoy it. It's not because I have cravings, but there was absolutely a time that it was a tool for cravings, 100%.
Yeah, and then followed up, Aiden said, do you think about being sober all the time? Maybe that's a question for me because I am sober all the time. I don't think Derek Grace is thinking about being sober all the
time. Sure not.
Sure not.
That's hilarious.
Have you been restored to sanity? I was like, bro, I was never insane. No, I don't think about being sober all the time because I'm actively creating like resources for deconstructing AA, like this video right here. I'm thinking about like addiction recovery often. I'm thinking about deconstructing AA often because I'm literally like immersed in the work to create this content and to create these resources for people. I really want the resources to exist. And as much as I love the orange papers, like I don't know, the way my brain works, it's very visual, the way that I learn. I literally like think in pictures. So I wanted to make something visual for people like me, like videos like this right here. We're having a meta moment.
Yeah.
And so I wanted stuff like this to exist. So because I am very actively creating these resources, I am thinking about alcohol addiction, deconstructing AA ideology, cult recovery, other addiction models and modalities and things like that. Just like if, like one of my very first jobs, I worked in a cafe, I was making lattes. So while I was working, I was thinking, I'm smelling coffee, I'm making coffee, I'm pouring coffee. People are saying words like cappuccino, espresso, whatever to me. So I was thinking about coffee a lot. But no, I don't think about, I haven't wanted to drink in well over a decade, like had even the thought of having a drink. I don't think about sobriety. When I read the book, which I'm going to read a little bit for you guys from my iPad, The Cure for Alcoholism, I did think about, do I want to drink again? Because it's saying that there's like a safe way to do it. And that kind of felt really scary to like entertain that idea. And I was like, whoa, this is dangerous. And that was like more AA conditioning in my head. And ultimately I decided, no, I really just like my life. I've never been this like emotionally and mentally stable in my life, like having left AA and deprogrammed. So I have no reason, like I'm doing well. There's nothing, I don't see how alcohol could benefit my life. And if that changes, then I'll consider how to do that later. But I don't think about sobriety or drinking outside of just talking about it like here in this moment right now.
I do wonder, like having that conversation of how much would I think about these things if it wasn't something that I was so passionate about talking about, right? Like if it was just an experience that I went through and I wasn't so, like I'm in a way I am kind of consumed by it because it's one of those things that it just has affected me in this life of where it's opened up so much freedom. It's like I just do want other people who are still stuck the way that I was stuck to know that if you want, you can leave. Like the door is opened, right? But if this wasn't part of my life, how much would I think about it or talk about it? I feel like I would just live my life the way that I was before I stopped talking about it, and I really didn't think about it. I still had a head full of AA thoughts. I still very much believed that the program worked for most people. I thought it was a great program. I still, even though it didn't work for me, because I thought I was the problem, I was the reason it didn't work. But other than that, I didn't think about it until I started to learn about shit. And I was like, holy shit, it wasn't me. It wasn't me, and then it's opened up this whole world of now I can't stop talking about it. But I mean, I guess you guys in the comments who don't really talk about it that much, how much do you guys think about it in your daily life? Is it just something that when you come online and you interact with the content, or is it something that you think about on the daily? I'm interested,
Yeah, and if you're watching the replay, let us know too. We definitely want to vibe with you in the comments, or I do. I want to know it. I like to like hear what's in everybody's mind. I like to understand kind of what everybody's thinking, everybody who wants to share about it. And I think it really benefits all of us when we share our minds, because then we can all kind of wake up to more critical thinking and find what's true for us in that.
Yeah, it helps me big
But
time.
here's the thing, like I like cigarettes. I smoked. It was informed consent because I understood they were harmful when I had my first cigarette, right? Which is what I wish AA was. I wish AA was informed consent, so you knew it was harmful if you chose it. But I quit smoking many times, one time even for 5 years. And then I went back. And then the last cigarette I had was in the very beginning of April in 2010. I remember it was at the airport. I was flying to India. It was like a 24-hour travel day. And I'd already had like 24 hours off cigarettes. So I was like, maybe I'll just keep this up. And like, I don't talk about cigarettes very often, although I'm talking about them right now. Like, I don't talk about them. I don't think about them. My life isn't about not smoking. My life isn't, I mean, I don't smoke, but my life isn't about not smoking or thinking about not smoking or wishing I smoked or whatever. It's just like not even a part of my life. So I think that's just true with anything that we stop doing that we don't want to do, that we just move on. We like move on from it. And yeah, I don't tend to dwell on the things that I've let go of in my past, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a cigarette. But something else about me is that I have, and this was one of the benefits of AA, or inspired from AA, or even like one of the harms of AA, depending upon how you hold it and look at it. But I have felt kind of since joining AA that I do feel joy and purpose from helping people, trying to help people get through problems that were really hard for me to solve by leaving behind me a trail of resources so that they could hopefully get through those problems and solve them quicker than I did. So really it's under the idea of wanting to help people suffer less and get to freedom faster than I was able to by providing resources. And I first did that with anxiety. I've done it with a lot of things. I did it with freeway driving. I made a whole course on to help people through freeway driving and videos about that. If you look back in my YouTube channel. So I've always been that way. So at some point I'm going to shift and the focus won't be on deprogramming and deconstructing AA anymore. It might be on something else that I want to help people suffer less from and get to freedom faster on. That's just kind of like what feels, I don't know, aligned for me.
Huh. That's cool. Yeah, I definitely think it is one of those things. It's like I was super into AA and like wanting to help people through the AA way. And then once I left the AA way, it's like I want to help people know at least, like you said, suffer less than I did, because there was nowhere to turn when I first left. There was nothing out there. Rick said Jelinek was a conman in his own right. He didn't really have a PhD. He was a fraud who was selling his creation falsely with Marty Man. They couldn't have gotten away with this disease bullshit today. Oh, absolutely fucking not. No, they sure couldn't. Marshall. What's up, broski? The disease idea of alcoholism and addiction was made popular by Benjamin Rush in the 1700s. These ideas are much older than what your guest mentioned. Benjamin Rush, a founding father and physician, pioneered the disease concept of alcoholism in the U.S., describing it as a disease of the will that impaired control, not just a moral failing. In his 1784 work, An Inquiry to the Effects of Spirituous, I'm not saying that right, liquors, he detailed physical and physiological symptoms like tremors, madness, etc. I can't see the rest.
Yeah. Yes, 100%. I may have left out the word, it sounds like I did, and I apologize for that, of modern, making it like in modern society was Jelinek's work, but it does go back a long time. You're absolutely correct. And thank you for that thorough, some of that's new for me. So thank you for that. I love it. I love it when people add things. A lot of you, and maybe you specifically, like listening or watching right now, have done more research, know more of the things. And that's why like coming together in the comments and doing these live streams and stuff, I think is so helpful. So we can kind of, I don't know, in a way, like figure it out, failing forward or whatever. I certainly don't know all the things.
Totally. I absolutely know there's a lot of people who have done a lot more research than me. I'm just loud about the little bit that I know.
Yeah. Jim says you can only think about being sober when you're drunk, which is in essence your best thinking.
They used to always say it's your honest thinking, right? When you're drunk. I wonder how true that is.
And David says, these podcasts are great, especially after coming down from the AA meeting I was forced to go to. Yeah. So it's great that you're here. I feel like maybe it sounds like from some of the comments I've read from you, David, that it almost helps keep you grounded, even though you are essentially being coerced in a 12-step right now through your circumstances, like a lot of people are, that you're also grounding yourself to, I think that that's great. That to me, it really like, you really have to work to do the take what you want, leave the rest, because everything about AA is take what you want, leave the rest. But rarely have we seen a person fail. Half measures.
Yeah. If you don't do the rest, then you're not working the program. Then there is no, at least where I was from, you couldn't leave anything. David said, living in a sober house, these podcasts are great, especially after coming down from the AA meeting last night that we were forced to go. Oh.
Is that the one we just read? Oops, sorry. So I want to do a little read here. Oh, by the way, can I do a little shout out for the algo? If you are enjoying this and you would like it to be sent out to other people to enjoy as well, give it a little heart bomb, give it a little like, a little thumbs up, give it a mean face, give it a sad face if you hate us. Just let a sister know what you think. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so this is from the book Biology of Desire. Has anybody read Biology of Desire by the subtitle is great. Why Addiction is Not a Disease by Mark Lewis, PhD. He says brain changes can be interpreted as a consequence of learning rather than disease. And he says, and this is why I love reading from people who have been doing this work for like decades. After reading thousands of comments and emails from former and recovering addicts and interviewing dozens of them for hours at a time, I'm convinced that calling addiction a disease is not only inaccurate, it's often harmful. Harmful, first of all, to addicts themselves. While shame and guilt may be softened by the disease definition, there's that benefit, right? When we're like, oh, it's a disease, like it kind of removes our shame at first, but at the same time, it locks us into the system. It's like, it feels like freedom at first, but then you get trapped into the ideology for forever, into forever recovery. So while shame and guilt may be softened by the disease definition, many addicts simply don't see themselves as ill, and being coerced into an admission that they have a disease can undermine other, sometimes highly valuable elements of their self-image and self-esteem. Many recovering addicts find it better not to see themselves as helpless victims of a disease, and objective accounts of recovery and relapse suggest they might be right. Most of the recovered addicts I've talked to would rather think of themselves as free, not cured, not in remission. Yeah.
I definitely love that definition of that's like how I feel free. I don't feel, for a while I was like, oh, like I'm recovered. And still sometimes I go to that language just when I'm talking because I feel like it's easier. But that's truly what I feel like. I'm free. It's one of those things substances I don't not think about using them. I don't think about using them. I do use them sometimes, depending on the substance. And it's not if there's no power over it, right? Like it's just something that I do, like if I go to a concert or go to a movie, it's just like that. And that's truly what it is. It's the freedom to not think, oh shit, this stuff is getting stronger. Like we were talking about at the beginning, it's getting stronger while I'm over here, even though I'm not in chaotic use, it's still going to get me. The freedom of not thinking that I have to even think about that. That is true freedom, for real, for me at least.
We have Existential Chris says, AA isn't a cult, just sacred text, ritual chanting, public confessions, and punishment for dissent. Lol. It's, yeah. It's so funny when people will say AA is not a cult and all sorts of like reasons where I think this is being cheeky, right? I'm taking this as being like cheeky. And they're saying their opinion as if I'm saying my opinion. But when I say AA is a cult, I'm saying that from what I've researched. I've looked at the ICSA, the International Cult Studies Association. They have a 15-point cult characteristic checklist. I went through and I made a video series on YouTube unpacking each of the 15 points with how AA actually does qualify for each of those checkpoints. So for me, AA checks every of the 15 boxes. That's why AA is a cult, because I went and I looked at the cult literature and I compared AA ideology to the cult literature and I found a match. Not because I think it was, not because I'm bitter, not because I'm angry, definitely not because I had a bad experience or because it didn't work for me. Is because I looked at the cult literature and I just, there's some critical fucking thinking.
Bam.
But it's and I don't mind if anybody doesn't think, we all get to think what we want. Not everybody has to think the same way that I do, but I'm not coming to my conclusions from my emotions or my personal experience. I'm looking at the research, the data, and I'm not always right, but I'm not just like I have a feeling or I had an experience, therefore this is a universal truth.
Right. Like I said, I'm not super researched. Like there's things that I've looked up and there's, books I've read and such. But if there was nothing out there that I could have ever seen, I don't think I would be so loud about it. Right. Like what gives me the power, what makes me more like be loud about it is because I know that there's things that I can say, go ahead and, check this out. Look over here. Like, don't take my word for it. Please don't. Go form your own opinions. This is where I got my opinion from. And I think that's the best thing about it all, is that we're not saying like, fuck yeah, don't go there, like blah, blah, the way that people, when that's what they hear. Like once it goes through like their AA ears, they hear, that's what they hear, but that's not what we're saying at all.
Yeah, I would love it, Bernie, Tara, Bernie, if when you were originally, like in our very first conversation, when you were on Sobriety Bestie podcast, you talked about powerlessness and how the disease didn't take money out of your wallet. The disease didn't put the key in the ignition of your car. The disease didn't drive your car to get up. So I'm wondering if, and I loved that, and I'm wondering if you can share your personal thoughts on powerlessness outside of these PhDs with decades and stuff. Just if you wanted to share your own thoughts on powerlessness.
Sure. Well, I know for me, part of my AA story, right, used to be that I would talk about how I would be driving to the dope man and against my will is what I called it. I would be driving to the dope man against my will. And there were times that I drew up that shot and put it in my arm against my will. That was my disease in the driver's seat. And I 100% thought and believed that for a really long time. But looking back, when I don't have my disease model glasses on, it's like, well, those were the choices that I made when I felt like I had limited choices. I felt like those were my only choices. And I felt like that was the best choice that I could make, with being dope sick, with, not having a roof over my, like with just all the different things, right? That seemed like the best choice that I could make for myself at that time. But my disease was not in the driver's seat, right? Like I still drove there. I still made the choice to go. I didn't have to go, and I still went. Now, I know when we are in active use, it feels like we don't have a choice, totally. But I don't think that to continue to co-sign that rhetoric, right? To continue to tell people that, no, you don't have a choice. You don't have a choice. You don't have a choice. Let's let people know that you have a choice up until you put the needle, until you draw it back. You still have a choice. It may not feel like it. I'm not judging you. If that is what you choose to do, go for it. Just be safe, right? But let's empower people and let them, remind them, because I think sometimes when we're just in survival mode and we're just going and we're ripping and running, and then we're being everything that everyone told us that we were, we forget that we do still have a choice. And if we don't want to make that choice, we don't have to. Much easier said than done, me sitting here not dope sick. My life is completely different than what it was back then. I get that. Trust me, I get it. But I do think that we need to remind people that you do have choices. And we see it in active use when people who have been shooting up and start smoking it, because believe it or not, smoking it is safer than shooting it, right? Like we see people make choices all the time. And like I've said before, even when you are ripping and running, like I know I picked and chose who I was going to rob from, who I was going to steal, like the shit that I was going to do. So you can make choices in active use. And, so like, again, sometimes it feels like it's stacked against you and you feel like you don't. But I think we should remind people that you do have a choice and you can make choices and you're not fucking powerless.
Yeah. The same for drinking.
Yeah.
And I love there was this preacher who did this great video on YouTube like years ago. And he was saying if he was to sit down with anybody who had a drinking problem and felt that they believed they were powerless or had no power, lost the power of choice, or couldn't stop drinking or whatever, and offered them $5 million to not drink for 24 hours, that most of them would probably not drink for 24 hours. And that proves that it's not a disease. You're not powerless. You're not powerless. That it, given the sufficient circumstances. And I think that, yeah, on any fucking day, even on my worst hangovers that were anxiety, that was like so much overwhelming anxiety where I was panicked, if I knew that I could just grin and bear it through that 24 hours and get $5 million and not drink to make that discomfort go away, I would have 100% tolerated the anxiety and the overwhelm and literally the alcohol withdrawal, right? In order to get the 5 million. Of course I would.
Right.
I had the power. It was easier, or it felt better, or and there's a little more to it like that. I don't believe that we're powerless, and definitely I don't believe that we're always all powerful either. I think it's more nuanced. Actually, Mark Lewis talks about that in his book too, that it's not, I don't think that we're 100% always in choice, and I don't think that's how the brain works, especially like you were saying, your life is easier now, so it's easier to say that you wouldn't, but also your brain is different. Like our brains change. The brain that's in early sobriety is not the brain that's 1 year sober or 10 years sober or whatever. It's a different brain, has different options. Literally, we can change the pathways in our brain. And once we get out of the destructive habit, I know that's like, hard to hear it as addiction as a habit, but once our brain is out of that habit, that's like a survival habit though. The way that I understand it from what I've read is that drinking becomes like a survival habit, like in a lower part of our brain or older part of our brain, like hunger and like need for air and water, where it becomes like that, where we need it at that survival level. So it's not just, oh, just break your habit. It's more than that. I get it. And at the same time, our brains change and evolve. And so if there was a point where, well, there's more to read too. I'm going to read a little bit more from Biology of Desire. Again, let me know if you guys have read this. Finally, and most troubling is the confusion that surrounds AA's emphasis on recognizing one's powerlessness as a condition for overcoming addiction. Others interpret the emphasis on powerlessness as suggesting ongoing helplessness. Yes, it is learned helplessness. As I noted earlier, many experts highlight the value of empowerment for overcoming addiction. In fact, many former addicts claim that empowerment, not powerlessness, was essential to them, especially at the later stages of their recovery. Yeah. Later on in recovery, I wish that we just knew that recovery was temporary, that graduating recovery was seen as an important phase, and that if you're going to go the recovery route that is 12 step, that it was known that it's a two-part recovery. There's the recovery from alcohol addiction, and then there's the recovery from Alcoholics Anonymous, and that second recovery is important as well, that you got indoctrinated into an ideology that would help some people stay abstinent. And maybe it's really the fellowship or whatever that's helping them stay abstinent. And then afterwards go through a deconstruction process or a deprogramming process to get that ideology out of your head. Now that your brain is changed, that you're stable, and that you can recover from the recovery and then move on with your life. The same way that we don't wear a cast forever with a broken leg, that we get the cast removed, we might have crutches, and then we leave the crutches and we, hobble on with our life. Here's one last thing I want to read about the disease model, which goes into like powerlessness and like how that plays in society. Western governments may be the most powerful. Let's see, where does this go? The definition of addiction as a disease endorsed by the medical and scientific communities and most Western governments may be the most powerful marketing tool there is for the rehab industry. It's not only a great way to get people in the door. Clearly, people with a disease need treatment, and judges in the United States have fully endorsed this logic. We know that there's cases where people are not required or coerced to AA because of it's a religion, but also a way of explaining what goes wrong when treatment doesn't work, because no doctor, nurse, or shrink will ever tell you that they can fix you for sure. All they can say is they'll try. And if you end up not getting fixed, well, that's the way it is with diseases. And probably you didn't quite follow the regimen you were instructed to follow.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect for the rehab industry because you can constantly blame the person for not wanting it bad enough, not surrender, not doing X, Y, Z. There's always a list of reasons why it didn't work, and they're always the person's fault, and never that maybe this type of path isn't the best path for you. Maybe you should try something else. I never once heard that, not one time. It was always something else that I needed to do. It's perfect. They get zero accountability. Nobody blames them. No one questions them because it's just thought like that, like, oh, well, treatment isn't successful. We've just accepted that. And we've accepted that treatment is trash. And if people really want it, they'll find a way to make it work. It's bullshit. Kate said, legally, there is no disease and taking substances is a choice. Yeah.
Can you guys hear? Bonnie says that she lost audio. I can hear Bernie. I can hear me.
Me too. I feel like someone else would have said something. David said, they tried to say to me that it was my disease that got me 2 DUIs and put me in jail and sober house. No, it was my freaking bad choices that put me here. It's so funny because they always I always get people who tell me the reason I speak out about 12-step is because I don't want to take accountability, right? But where else do you get that kind of accountability? Usually it is, my disease was in the driver's seat. It's like, where's the accountability there when you can blame everything on your disease rather than, these are the choices these are the bad choices I made, or these are the choices that I made with the limited, I didn't have a whole lot offered to me and I made, but it's still choices that I made. I feel like there's way less accountability in believing that you have a disease than not believing that you have one.
Yeah, it gives there's the relief at first that it's not your fault.
Right.
Of course you drank. Of course this happened to you. You have a disease. It lifts a burden of responsibility off you, but then it traps you into a learned helplessness. And while there may be a benefit as far as removing some shame at first, and that might feel good, and then that might help you when you join a community of everybody who thinks that way to stay on the same path as them. But ultimately it traps you because then you have this forever disease that's always lurking in the background that wants you dead. Not only does this disease want you dead, you can't trust your thinking. Your head is a dangerous neighborhood that you shouldn't go to alone. Your disease is getting stronger, even in sobriety. It's in the parking lot doing push-ups, or it's out the window. It's the monkey out the window, or whatever it is in your country, right? And it's just not the case. Okay, so let me see if I have it open on the right page for this book. It's a triggering title, right? For a couple different reasons. This book is called The Cure for Alcoholism. I don't like the word alcoholism. I just don't think it's accurate. But also cure could be triggering for people too. So they talk about pharmacological extinction. Have you guys heard about pharmacological extinction? By the late 1960s, Sinclair had already established the alcohol deprivation effect as a fundamental driving force to alcohol addiction. So that is the whole idea. Here's how I think about AA ideology. It's ideas. These were Bill's best ideas from the 1930s, or the group's best ideas, Dr. Silkworth's best ideas from the 1930s, but they're presented as facts. And one thing that I notice as a common trend through AA trolls or people who are in AA who come and defend AA ideology in the comments is that they're presenting their ideas as facts. So they'll say, da, 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 and I'll be like, well, where did you get that data from? We all know it. I'm like, but or they'll present their individual single anecdotal experience as a universal truth. And obviously that's not how it works. So let's see. He studied rats. So David Sinclair studied rats. Obviously, he came up with what's called the Sinclair method, which is where you take the pill naltrexone 1 hour before you drink. And over time, whether it's going to be 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, or even up to a year and a half or a little bit more, your brain's going to unlearn. It's going to unpair, I guess, pleasure in a way, but it's going to unpair reward. That's what it's called, reward in the brain. So that pathway in your brain that's been built up is going to be unlearned. It's going to shrivel up essentially, because we've heard of neuroplasticity, right? Neurons that fire together wire together, and use it or lose it. Those are the fundamental principles of neuroscience, right, Bernie? Where if you keep doing something, your brain's going to want to keep doing it. That's kind of the pathway that you're building. So these studies, let's see, what do I want to read? He likened it to Pavlov. So we know about Pavlov and his dogs, right? So Pavlov said, okay, so you give a dog food and it salivates. Then you ring a bell every time you give a dog food and it salivates. Now the dog is salivating on the cue of the bell. He's learned that the bell means learned. In the brain, he's learned that the bell means food's coming. So just the bell alone now with no food will still produce the salivation. He's having a learned response to the association that had been there from the bell and the food at the same time. Then if you unpair the bell and the food and you just keep ringing the bell again and again and again, but not giving the dog any food, he unlearns that the bell means food's coming, and he no longer salivates and has a physiological reaction with the bell because he's unlearned it. So that's what Sinclair's work is that our brains can unlearn alcohol addiction when drinking is paired with naltrexone. It blocks the opioid receptors is how I think it works, but double check that, right? And so that we unlearn like the dog unlearns, and so that it's like the pickle becomes a cucumber again. It can make our brains into a normal drinker. It's like literally the pill that Bill was writing about, or the science Bill was writing about in the big book. Like science hasn't accomplished this yet, but one day might, to make a normal drinker out of an alcoholic. Well, they have. It's called naltrexone. It's like so great. It's 78% effective. I've never personally done it, but the science is great in understanding it as learning in the brain, addiction as learning in the brain, not as a fatal progressive disease that only gets worse over time. It just logically and rationally makes sense, has nothing to do with my feelings or my individual anecdotal experience. And I find that fascinating. And so to me, I had already deconstructed from the powerlessness and the disease mythology, but this really gave me science, like a scientific look and perspective at one way that modern science, and really this has been around since the 50s or 60s, and naltrexone's been approved since 94 in the US, at least by the FDA, and it's like $1 a pill. So it's like there is an easier, softer way, Bill Wilson. And Bill Wilson, who allegedly, we don't know if it's true, on his deathbed was asking for alcohol. If Bill Wilson was alive now in 2025, I think he'd be like, let's do the Sinclair method, folks. Pivot, pivot, pivot. We can drink again. Yay! Because he sounded like he wanted to drink again. Well, it sounded like he didn't really get, unfortunately, he didn't really get treatment for his depression, right? I think he suffered a lot. Let's see.
Cassandra said naltrexone, I can't talk today. Naltrexone helps cravings too. Some people use it for food cravings too.
Yeah. I had a family member who was prescribed it for food, for to help to lose a little weight, to improve their overall health. And accidentally, they immediately went down, to drinking half as much as they normally drank. And that they would get a certain amount of beer every week at the grocery store when they'd go to the grocery store every week. And they didn't even really notice that they were not wanting beer less. They just noticed that the beer would last twice as long. And then we kind of backtracked once I learned about naltrexone and read this book, Cure for Alcoholism. And they're like, oh, I was on naltrexone those 2 months that my drinking was cut down in half without any effort, not even really consciously understanding why. And so, yeah, naltrexone can help with the cravings for food for some people. It's not, there's no one method that works for anyone, but I would say in everything that I've studied that Sinclair method, like naltrexone, is the gold standard for addiction harm reduction, addiction recovery. Because when we really understand addiction recovery, like alcohol addiction recovery outside of AA ideology, you can still drink and be recovered from alcohol use disorder, which is like a mind blown. Now, I'm not drinking, and I'm not recommending anybody do anything. But when you look at what alcohol use disorder, how it's defined in the United States, at least, and I know, forgive me that I don't know how it's defined in your country or all the countries. So I am being US centric, which is like annoying. I get it, but definitely let me know if you know how it's defined in your country. I'm interested, right? I want to learn more. But you can, if you have less than a certain amount of drinks a week, you don't qualify anymore for alcohol use disorder. So you can literally be having like 3 drinks a week or 5 drinks a week or whatever, depending upon if you're a male or female or however they define it. Then yeah, and you can still drink and be recovered from alcohol use disorder, which should be the goal. That abstinence isn't superior. It's needed for some of us, like, but it's not superior. Like,
Eva said Sinclair method. Yeah, I think it's one of those things that people feel like once you meet that criteria for substance use disorder, you forever meet that criteria. But I guarantee you, if people who have been in recovery for X amount of time, if they were to, go through the DSM-5 or whatever, they would not still meet that criteria, but yet they are continuing to, to each his own, like do what works for you. But I mean, it's not what it is. Like you can recover, you can move on, and you can recover and still use substances like a healthy, normal adult. Just because you once had a chaotic relationship with substances, that doesn't forever damage every single time I used to, when I would smoke, I would pick back up again. Guess what? That doesn't happen anymore, because it's not a thing for me anymore. When I believed it was, but it's not now.
Yeah. Kate says in EU, it's also AUD or SUD. Yeah, good to know. Good to know. Tara, you disappeared. Eva says, I went from drinking a liter a day to 1 month after a trauma, and now I only have 1 drink at holidays and birthdays. Awesome. And Existential Chris says, I drink again, but I haven't been drunk in over 21 years. Natalie says, I've been trying to decide for over a decade if treatment and AA help me or hurt me more. I'm no longer in the helped more camp. Oof. Thank you for reading to the ADHD hypervisual auditory learner. Totally. I was like, I love the orange papers, but I even just love like all the colors burning in your background. I'm like, I need, and even my energy is kind of like, oh, right. And so I kind of need like a vibe in order for me to get that dopamine, to get the learning down. So yeah, totally for the visual learners. Yeah, but I really feel for this comment, Natalie. I really feel for you on what you're saying here about, did the treatment hurt me more or harm me more? And I'm no longer in the help me more camp. That's why I don't know what anybody else should do. I would never recommend for anybody to go to AA or any 12-step program, period. I wouldn't recommend it. I also would never recommend anybody to leave. I don't know what the fuck anyone should do, but I would never tell anybody to go. No, right. I would never, just like I would never tell anybody to like stab their eyeball with a knife. Like, I'm not going to tell them to walk into harm's way. But if you're doing your thing, well, who am I to tell you not to do your thing? Like, it's none of my business what people want to. Trust yourself, Yeah. But if I was going to give my former self advice, so I got sober in September 2009. So if I was going to whisper into Kirsten's getting sober ear, I would say, instead of going to rehab for 30 days and then going to Alcoholics Anonymous cult religion for 10 and a half years, I would say, get on naltrexone, do Sinclair method, learn about it, read a book, do Sinclair method to reduce your brain's natural desire for drinking. You literally don't have to do anything, still drink. Be mindful that you're actually trying to drink less. So, don't just like binge all the time, but like be on that path that, this is to help you with your consequences and stuff like that, have less of them. So do Sinclair method for changing your brain and losing interest in alcohol so that you don't want to drink as much naturally, or because of the reward pathways are blocked. Do smart recovery for coping skills, because you're getting a lot of coping skills since alcohol is your coping skill. Little former Kirsten here. And also there's going to be community there. And then also do therapy for trauma. Find a good trauma therapist to unpack your childhood trauma. because I guess I wasn't aware of how much trauma I had at that time. And it was 2009. We weren't really talking about trauma. This is before Instagram and all that, right? And before social media way before TikTok. People were not talking about, they were not talking about addiction online. They were not talking about anxiety. It was kind of the dark ages. But still, that's what I would tell myself. And if I was going to drink again and then have a problem with drinking again, which I couldn't even imagine, I'd say that I would do Sinclair method. But if I would drink again, I'd do Sinclair method. So yeah, I just would never tell somebody to go to 12-step. I really see, my view now is that AA is just a religious cult, period. It is a religious cult, but let's just remove cult, right? That's the coercive control. That's where it gets really harmful. It's a religion pretending to be a recovery program. The steps are not about recovering from alcohol. They're literally about surrendering to God. Like, turn your will and your life over to God. That is not a recovery from addiction step. There's nothing wrong if somebody chooses to use religion to see if religion's going to get them sober. Fine, have at it. But let's not pretend that they're not religious steps, the 12 steps, like atonement, confession, giving your sins and defects to God, surrendering your will and your life, using prayer to connect with God. And then step 12, proselytizing, evangelizing, recruiting more people into the group. Like, they're literally all religious steps from the Oxford group. And those do work for some people. That's true. There's like 5% or less of the people who do those religious steps do get abstinence and maintain it. But I would say at the cost of the self. I still don't know how to pronounce the word self. Diminution. Yeah, the reduction of self. It's all about getting out of self. And I think a lot of us who are getting sober need to get more into self. A lot of us show up already people pleasers, already traumatized, not speaking our truth, playing small. And a lot of us need empowerment, not disempowerment. And I feel like AA is like backwards, where it feels like empowerment, but it's slowly, for some of us, is disabling our power and literally telling us that we're powerless.
Totally. And it's funny to speak to what Natalie said. I literally posted on Facebook today. I said, the damage I still carry isn't from the drugs I used. It's from the beliefs I was taught in treatment and recovery spaces. And like, it's true. Like, what I'm still going through now, what I'm still trying to overcome now has nothing to do with anything of my chaotic use. It's from when I was trying to get help from that chaotic use. That is the stuff that I'm still working through today. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah. And Natalie's comment is fear may have gotten me sober, but empowerment is what has kept me this way. Long time, no AA. And Cassandra is saying, yes, empowerment. Yeah.
The literal opposite of what we're taught is what has helped a lot of us, you know, not being powerless, being powerful. Peter said, I've been drinking alcohol-free beer for over 20 years. I felt too stigmatized to tell anyone. In fact, came out about cannabis use before eventually sharing that I enjoyed a weed drink of 0%. Yeah, there is so much stigma in the rooms about NA beer, non-alcoholic beer. I don't understand it, but I guess it's back to that allergy. They think it might trigger you back, and you know, have no control.
Yeah. I mean, I made the decision when I got sober. I tried mouthwash, just the regular mouthwash I was using at the time, and it had alcohol in it, right? And when I was using the mouthwash in early sobriety, it reminded me of taking a shot of liquor, because my insides of my mouth would like sweat or whatever that feeling is, right? And I just felt like it was a little bit triggering for me. And so I switched to non-alcoholic mouthwash. And then I just made the decision that I just don't put alcohol in my mouth, period. And that did include, well, if it was cooked in food, that was fine. But so I kind of made my rules of what felt right to me. But there is no allergy. Like, it's just like, you know, I mean, I've had surgery. Well, if you count ayahuasca, I've had surgery 3 times in sobriety. The first 2 with an actual surgeon, the third time with a shaman in the jungle. But when I was on, seriously though, when I had surgery twice in sobriety, and I was on the meds they gave me, and then the pain pills after, there was no allergy. There was no nothing. Like, nothing happened. There was no desire happened. Even when I had my free lapse, when I accidentally drank it was coconut kefir, which was like in Bali, it was, I guess, unregulated, hyper fermented. So actually I drank it was a big bottle. I drank half of it and was buzzed. Was like, wait, am I buzzed? What the fuck? Why do I feel like I'm getting drunk? And I realized that it was like extra fermented or something. I didn't want, and then I thought, do I finish it or do I toss it? And I had a moment where I thought about, well, I kind of like this. Should I finish it? And then I was like, no, I should throw it away. Come on. I'm like halfway to drunk right now. Let's get rid of this thing. There was no allergy. There was no drinking about it the next day. I went to the meeting the next day and talked about my free laps. But like nothing happened.
It's crazy because when I had my gallbladder out, I was living with my parents, and my mom was so indoctrinated into that allergy that I wasn't allowed to have any pain meds after my gallbladder. I just had to take ibuprofen, and I was in a lot of pain, obviously, but I had no choice because I was under their roof. But it just goes to show you how deep, like my mom was so scared that me taking, even if she held them, that just that one pill could have just taken me back to where she never wanted me to see me go again. You know, it's awful. Kate said, I look back at AA as a constant fight between myself wanting to be empowered and the 12 steps disempowering me. I was irritable and anxious all the time. I feel that. And then they'll tell you that anxiousness and irritability is your RID, right? You're restless, irritable, and discontent.
Rob says, hi, ladies, 3 weeks sober. Awesome. After relapsing, after leaving AA, mental health is so much better. Really great to hear.
Nice.
And the fact a mate has cut me off after joining AA only reinforces my thinking that I made the right decision. Yeah, the shunning is brutal. It's really like, we know it though, right? I mean, we know if you leave, you can't bring your friends. I think that we kind of know that. Like if you've been there a while, you get it that we don't really talk. People are not really associated with the people who leave because you don't want to get some of their thinking on you, right? They're dangerous. So as much as we kind of know it, it's also feeling it is like, and some people might still be our friends, kind of. Not really, but maybe there's exceptions, right? Yeah, it's brutal. It's brutal. It's so funny though, because a lot of the comments that I'll get from people who are clearly speaking from the AA ideology are saying shunning doesn't happen. And I'm like, bro, have you left AA? Like, have you dared question the narrative? As soon as you think critically, you are shut down, smacked down, shunned, rejected. You get out of the middle of the boat, they throw you into the water. Get the fuck away from me. I don't want to. You're gonna make me relapse. You're dangerous. Like,
yeah, they're gonna make you sick before you make them well. Was what I remember the saying. Andrea says, "Oh, get some of their thinking on you." Yeah, that is how they think. And like I said, they think that the saying was they're gonna make you sick before you make them well. If you think that you can stay in contact with them and try to help them, they act like they're a disease, because they're in their disease.
Burning and Bessie live in the house.
It is,
James. We vibing up in here. Talking about powerless, all the powerless things.
All the powerlessness.
And we have I can relate to these comments. My mental health has improved tenfold since leaving. I am so happy to hear it. I've seen this a lot. I usually get this in the DMs from people. Not everybody wants to leave comments on the internet, right? And I get it. I didn't. I literally didn't say shit for 5 years after leaving AA. Not one, even a thumbs up on a deprogramming post. Nothing online. The only thing I did that was slightly controversial and some AAs started blocking me or unfriending me was I said that I went to Peru to take ayahuasca. So they knew I was doing something outside of the ideal. I was dangerous. They didn't want their my thinking to get on them. But yeah. Let's see. So when I think of powerlessness, for me, did anybody else grow up in the 80s or the 90s, where they were talking about DARE drug abuse, resistance education, just say no campaigns were kind of still in the vibe. And they were talking about how pot's a gateway drug. Does anybody ever remember that like gateway drug talk with pot? So I think about the powerlessness mythology as like the gateway belief buster to pop out of AA ideology. Here's what I mean. The night that I left AA or decided to leave AA, because for me it was like realizing that Saint Nick isn't real. I was like, oh, it's not real. And it was like, boom, the whole thing, like the whole mythology just like busted, because I realized that the core belief that Bill was selling me on in order to make his entire sales pitch, otherwise called the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, be true. The one core belief that I had to believe in order to make his entire system true was the belief that I was powerless over alcohol. Mm. And the way that they framed it in the meetings that I went to, and my sponsor framed it to me, was if even once, even only just one time, you failed to be able to control your drinking, then therefore you are what's called a real alcoholic. And if you're a real alcoholic, which is literally only an AA term, it's made up in AA, it's called a no true Scotsman fallacy, which is where you make up a loaded language term. It's not a fucking thing, but it keeps the system closed. So any success outside of the system, oh, they weren't a real alcoholic. Right. So even if once I failed to control my drinking, which was true, there were many times that I had more drinks than I planned on it, or wanted to have like 2 drinks and then it was 3 days later or whatever, right? I mean, come on. Who likes to party? I don't know. So if I fail to control my drinking, then I'm a real alcoholic, and a real alcoholic is powerless over alcohol. That means that I'm powerless over alcohol. If even once I didn't have the power to control how much I drank, then I am powerless over alcohol. For me, that is the gateway belief that makes the entire system, like, then you believe everything else, right? And so that's relatable. A lot of us drank more than we wanted to. I mean, has anybody been to college? There's a lot of drinking in a lot of places. Right. And so what I realized was that I wasn't powerless over alcohol. That's what shattered everything for me. And it was literally the night that I decided to leave AA. I was like, wait, at that point I was 10 and a half years sober. And I was like, okay, I haven't had a drink in 10 and a half years. Clearly have a lot of fucking power over this thing. What do you mean I'm powerless? There's no evidence in any recent history that I haven't had the power. I've had the power. Now, whether you want to say it was my higher power or me or whatever, then now we're trying to figure out where that power came from, but I wasn't powerless. Right. And I was like, wait, I'm not powerless over alcohol. What else did Bill sell me? And I really strategically, like, I wrote down the beliefs of AA that AA had me believe when I got there, that I currently at that moment that I wrote this down believed. This was April 6, 2020, like early pandemic days. I was like, okay, AA says I have a spiritual malady. Where does science validate that? It says I have a mental obsession, but that precedes my first drink. Okay, yeah, I can be obsessive. Now I also know that, in autism, they call that special interest, which I don't even like that term. It's not special. I'm just interested in shit. And then in ADHD, they call that hyperfocus, right? And so, but having a mind that can be obsessive or can be monotropic thinking, that doesn't mean that I'm powerless over alcohol forever and that I've never had the power. So I just wrote down all the beliefs and I was like, oh, wait, this shit is bananas. B-A-N-A-N-A-N-S. Like, that's not true. But it all came down to the powerlessness belief. I don't know, like, Tara, what popped you out of the ideology? Was it the powerlessness thing, or what kind of kicked you out the door and made you realize, oh, snap, this is myth?
Well, for me, I was already gone, right? Like I had said, like I had given up on recovery, and I was like, I can't do it. Like I can't do it. And I thought that's how recovery had to be. And I was like, this is just never going to be me. So I'm just going to do my own thing and hope for the best, right? But I still very much believed that AA was the thing. And even when I first started speaking out, I started speaking out as, there's other ways to recover. AA isn't the only way. Like, that was my stance, still thinking that AA was king shit, right? Still thinking that majority of people did it that
bullshit.
way.
It's bullshit, Tara. It's bullshit.
I still thought that. It wasn't until I learned from other people, started getting bits and pieces, and then I started doing, I was like, holy shit. So like I literally like deprogrammed out loud online, like it was one of those things. Like I said, I started from the place of there's more than one way to recover, all pathways, to holy shit, like AA is extremely fucking harmful. And I did, as I started to talk, I started to say, well, for me, the program was actually harmful, and the program can be harmful for people. Again, still thinking just a few of us, wasn't a lot of us, but some people are harmed by it, still thinking it is a very great program for most people. But then I started to, and I was like, oh my God, this wasn't just a me thing. Like this is fucking wrong from the word jump, So it was a little bit of a different experience than actively being in the rooms and leaving. I think it's very different, and would have been, I can't even imagine what that would have been like.
Yeah. Kings Mason says gateway lol. It's the gateway. The gateway belief to lock you into the system, or to get you into the system. Let's see.
You always hear step one too, right? They always say, if you don't get step one, you're not going to get anything else. Everything always about step one. And if you go out, oh, you must have forgot step one. So there's something with that powerlessness being the key to needing to truly believe that for the program to work.
Yeah, well, yeah, and it's very clear to me why powerlessness is an important idea to lock in first, because the entire system like lays on that. For me, that's the primary belief. This is just my thoughts, right? When I've critically thought about it all, and I was a true believer in AA for 10 years. Yeah. And then I loved it. I cried on Bill's grave, thanking him for channeling. This is so sad now. It's so hilarious, really. I was crying on Bill's grave in East Dorset, Vermont, thanking him for my life and thanking him for channeling the big book from God. Okay. Like, it's just like, I was in it. I was so drunk on the fucking Kool-Aid. And then I just realized it's not true. And I was like, oh my God, I'm living a lie. This is ridiculous. And so I left. I left because it's not true, not because I had a bad time or because I didn't like it. So it was devastating. It was like, oh, it's a con. Yeah. Jeez. So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that.
I mean, it is devastating though, even as someone who left before I realized that because it was like, I thought for so long that there was something so fundamentally wrong with me, and fought so hard to try to make it work for me, and it wasn't. And then you find out it's bullshit.
Yeah. Okay. I remember what I was going to say. It was about powerlessness. So in order for Bill to connect the dots between his big idea, that his white light spiritual experience on belladonna, and likely also on strychnine, morphine, and a lot of other fucking hallucinogens and other things, right? So Bill was all doped up in the town's hospital in December 11th, 1934, when he was getting sober with Dr. Silkworth's help and Ebby and the Oxford group, who were in there proselytizing the religion to him, right? Oxford group. So Bill needed to connect religious steps, literally the Oxford group. This is before AA. He was connecting religious steps of the Oxford group that he went through in the town's hospital when he got sober, because Bill was sponsoring him or was evangelizing Oxford group religion to him. So Bill was like, oh, okay, religion gets you sober. So how can we connect this? People who are struggling with drinking don't necessarily want to get religious. Those are like disconnected things, right? So he's saying, okay, so my steps, let's just say that they're spiritual, not religious. It's called gaslighting, but let's just pretend that confession, surrendering your will and your life to God, atonement, these are not religious. Those are religious steps. No. Like, I'm not religious. I've never been, but those are if it looks like a duck and walks like a duck, it's a fucking duck. Like, let's not take crazy pills, people. It's religion. So he needed to connect his, like the religious steps of the Oxford group, because he was in the Oxford group for 2.5 years before he left, and then rebranded it as AA, essentially, like took the steps and then rewrote it. Right. So he's like, how do I connect religious steps with abstinence? He's like, okay, I got it. You are powerless. Because you're powerless, you need a higher power. There, we've just connected addiction with religion. It's powerlessness. Because you're powerless, you need a higher power, God, to solve your problem. Okay, there's the connection. So if you don't need religion to solve your addiction problem, you don't have to go through the powerlessness baloney. I literally, my first assignment in AA was to write down 100 ways in my life that I'm powerless beyond even alcohol. Just in general, it was like this, what is it, like a degradation or humiliation ritual? This is your, hey, Kirsten, this is the lowest point of your life. You just showed up at rehab with a fucking black eye that you didn't know you had, and you flew on an airplane to get here. And your therapist is like, how'd you get your black eye? And she showed you a mirror because you didn't even know you had one. This is literally the lowest point of your life. You've just been stripped off benzos. You are like literally shaking in the fucking corner because you're coming off benzos so hard. And now you're 30 days sober, and we're going to have you write down a huge list of all the ways in your life that you are powerless, because when you're down, we're going to kick you down further. What the fuckery? Are you kidding me? That's exactly when I needed to be lifted up. But they're going to drill in how I am totally powerless, so I should abdicate any further power that I have, and I should abdicate my thinking and my worldview to the system of Alcoholics Anonymous. Because Bill thought religion was the solution to alcohol addiction. So powerless was the word that connected the two. That's my view. I don't know. I obviously that I really believe that, but I'm interested what other people like feel and believe as well too.
A lot of comments. King Mason said the medical diagnosis of a spiritual malady that will be $42,000 at rehab. No, literally, it's just for, people say, and when we did, I think it was last week, you were talking about the treatment. I think is supposedly at like 65% for 12-step treatment now. I want to see that other percentage, because I'm not seeing it. Obviously it exists. Just because I don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. But everything that I see is a glorified AA meeting is treatment. I haven't seen much of a change. Blues said, Bill W. sure did his damnedest to sell me something, but I'm not buying it. Lucky, I was a sucker, dude. I bought in right away. That doctor's opinion got me hooked. I was like, yes, that's me. I'm the real alcoholic. Even though I was heroin addict.
James says, I think it's harmful. I think it's a good program for no one. I think I see the ideology as inherently harmful.
Yeah.
I don't agree that we should have our personalities removed, our identities converted to have our purpose, our life purpose, our identity, our personality, our thinking converted into a group think. I just wanted to not have this. I wanted some of the consequences to go away. I just wanted to like drink less. That's why I'm like, bro, I didn't know there was a pill since 1994 that was approved for drinking less. Like, and so that's kind of like my message. Like, I don't know what the heck anyone should do, but I just wish everybody knew the options. Like there was a buffet, and AA was one of the plates on the buffet, but there was a warning, that said like, warning, this is a religious cult, and you're going to have to take a second program after this program, because, like you might eat a food that's going to give you like heartburn or something. So you're going to need something after you eat this one to like deal with this one. Yeah.
Yeah, it is definitely harmful. I'm losing my voice. I don't know where it's going.
James says, cults are not things we say, oh, it helps some people. No, cults are evil. Yeah.
But it's funny with 12-step that we do, like so many do say that. And it's just stopped saying that, honestly. I used to say like, well, I know it does help some people, but then I have gotten to the point where it's like, well, I do think that even the people it helps, there's still, it's not helping like without a cost, without some harm. There's definitely harm in that help. So yeah.
It's taken me a lot of deconstruction work to see how harmful AA is. And when I was in AA, I loved AA. I was all about it. I didn't know I was harmed when I was being harmed. That's what's like the mind fuckery about it, is the people that are doing the harm, which would have been me when I was in it, because I was speaking in meetings. I was carrying the message, which means I was evangelizing and proselytizing and recruiting for AA. I was going into hospitals, institutions, and jails. I was sponsoring people. I was talking to newcomers and taking them to coffee. I would even organize, there was like a Friday meeting we'd all go to. I would organize a dinner beforehand for all the newcomers and just go there and we'd all fellowship and stuff. So I was very much like promoting it all. So I was harming people because I was talking about the ideology, which in my view is inherently harmful. I didn't know I was being harmed and I didn't know I was harming others. And that's like the conundrum with it, is the people who are in it and are true believers don't realize that they're the problem that we're talking about. And instead of hearing us, which I understand when you're ideologically possessed, when the ideology like blinds you, like when you're the fish in water and you can't see the water, then you think the people who are speaking critically are the ones causing harm because they might prevent people from going, the newcomers from going into AA. But if speaking critically about your group can prevent people from going, that's a good thing. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
how is that? That says more about your group being harmful than if it's harmful to speak about the harm. We have a problem here, Houston. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And here we have this comment.
Andrea, the suicide rates speak for themselves. And, you know, it's crazy how I think every single one of us who has been in the rooms for, or was in the rooms for a significant amount of time, or not even that significant, but just a few years, does know somebody who was a participant in their home group or in a meeting that they went to that took their life. Like, that is not normal. That is not normal. So yeah, absolutely. They do speak for themselves. Bonnie said, AA helped my dad quit drinking, but it didn't help him heal his underlying issues. He was still emotionally and sometimes physically abusive to us. Sorry. I'm starting to think AA gave him a false front of believing he was all good because he was in AA. So it has me wondering, what is AA's definition of recovery and success? Do they hold people accountable for how they treat people in their lives? Or do they just police people for drinking or using meds? You know, one of the things that I say all the time is that sobriety has, like, people will tell their sobriety date like it really means something, but you could have 32 years sober and still be the biggest piece of shit that's walking this earth. Like, it has nothing to do with who you are as a person. And I think, in my experience, I know a lot of people have different experiences, but for me, in the rooms that I was in, no, the amount of time that you had, and if you helped a lot of people get sober, meaning you sponsored a lot of people, you could be the biggest predator, the biggest piece of shit. But the fundamental thing that you were judged on was how many years you had and how many sponsees you had. The rest of it just went unnoticed because some are sicker than others. We all have character defects. We're all sick people trying to get better, all that shit. But you were put on a pedestal if you had time and sponsees, where I was, you know.
Totally. And so on that question, what's the definition of recovery and success? From my experience, I'd say it's usually abstinence. Abstinence is what they mean. It's binary on if you're successful or not. And then when they want to take it further, but literally it's just straight binary, abstinence or not, and then it's how long have you been abstinent? How many days have you collected in a row of not drinking? And then the second thing they might talk about is emotional sobriety, which gets more into the 12 and 12, like 15 years after the big book came out, the 12 and 12 came out, right? So then they'll talk about your emotional sobriety. But I feel like for me, when I look at that, a lot of it is spiritual bypassing. So your recovery is good quality if you are able to repress your anger, your resentment, your personality, your so-called character defects, and you're able to just be grateful for everything. I'm so grateful that my partner cheated on me. I'm so grateful my house burnt down. I'm so grateful that like everyone is like God, like that would be considered quality of recovery if you can stay in gratitude.
Yes.
But that I would call that spiritual bypassing, not quality recovery. So the whole thing is kind of backwards because you're only really it's valuing certain things. They call it like a pseudo or a cult personality where there are certain things that are stigmatized. And what's so obvious about it too is that obviously I know this because I was in AA for a decade, right? And then I left and deprogrammed and left in 2020. But the words that people use to try to insult me, the people who are in AA ideology in the comments, I'm like, these aren't insults. Like you're literally just showing me your limited view of the world. Like you're how you emotionally repress yourself. So I get called angry, bitter, resentful. I'm like, I'm going to be all the feelings, bro, because I'm a fucking human. Have you like noticed? Like I'm a human out here. Like I'm going to be angry, bitter, and resentful along with joyful, loving, grateful, along with all of the feelings, because that's the nature of being a human. Like if you want me to be less of a human, or if you want to insult me for my humanity, like it's not all that makes me think is you're repressed emotionally. It doesn't feel like an insult to me. First of all, I'm not speaking critically about AA because I'm angry, bitter, or resentful. Although I'm happy to be those feelings if that's true. And as they arise, I'm going to embrace them. But a lot of the time, right? Not perfect over here. But no, I'm speaking critically about AA because there's not many resources out there for people like us who leave. And for me, leaving AA was probably the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life. It was hands down harder than getting sober. There was no love bombing. There was no welcoming committee. There was no path to God. There was no promise of like getting rocketed into a new dimension of existence. There was nothing. It was crickets. It was hard. It was a lonely time. And I don't want that for anybody. So I am putting my neck out there to create resources for people so that they don't have to have it, hopefully, as black hole-ish as I did, right? It's not because I'm bitter. It's not because I'm angry. It's not because I'm resentful. Part of it might be because I still have a little bit of AA ideology in my head saying that I'm supposed to help people. Like I'm still deconstructing some of that baloney where I'm responsible for others. I'm not responsible for anybody. So I'm still looking at like, you know, how might I be recreating what AA conditioned me to do with the deprogramming world? And then is there a deprogramming available for me after this, right? So, but I'm going to be where I'm at in my journey. But no, I don't speak critically because I'm angry, bitter, or resentful, although I'm happy to be those things when I am. It's not an insult to grab a piece of my humanity and throw it at me. I'm like, next, try again. Or you're going to get drunk. I'm like, that's not an insult. Like what I wrote this morning on it, I was like, is this magical thinking? Because like, how can you predict the future? What are you saying? I don't even know you.
Yeah, people have put on my thing like, you're high. And I'm like, yep, sure am. You know what I
mean? Not an insult.
So nailed cute. It. But like you said, it's not an insult. Or there have been times that I was talking about something with treatment and I had some resentment and passion behind it. And like you said, I answered back. I said, yeah, I do have some resentment towards it. It's okay. It's okay to have these feelings towards things that are fucking horrific, you know? Nelson said bullshitism. Yeah, it's fucking filled with it. It's insane. Natalie said, if I could go back to help my 20-year-old self, it would be to hand her treatment for trauma, not alcoholism. But that wasn't available in 1996. Of course, the 12-step treatment didn't work for me. I know. It's so sad. So many of us looking for help. And I do feel like those of us who go and get professional help, especially in our early 20s, we get given this thing, which is AA, the doctrine of AA, that prevents us from getting to the real help. You know, it's like this blocker that we then or not everyone, but some of us assume this identity and try to make it work. And some of us make it work. Some of us don't. But we become all about the addict, all about the alcoholic, when we really need something else, right? It's really about something else. And that becomes however long we're stuck in there is preventing us from getting to where we need to go to heal. You know, it's really fucking sad.
Kate says, I don't think Bill ever said it was a spiritual, not religious. He just said you can pick your own God. Totally. A lot of the thought-stopping cliches, slogans, or propaganda came about after, like from the culture, I would say they were birthed through just what's heard in the rooms. He probably didn't say there's a disease in the parking lot doing push-ups, right? Like, he might not have said your best thinking got you here, right? These are things that just like picked up and spread like wildfire throughout the rooms. Yeah. You can pick your own God 100%, because he wanted it to be more universal. He didn't want to offend the religions. So he kind of opened it up in his way. But, you know, it's funny. Like, am I going to start like reading the book with a deprogramming lens and being able to quote it? I don't know. But I do know on one page, I found it on the page. It's page 77 at the top of 77 in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It says, our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God. That's right, Bill. Sounds like a fucking religion. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to choose, but just let's not pretend it's not all about being about God.
Yeah.
If you want to be all about God, that's fine. It's just, I don't think that's related to alcohol addiction.
And it's funny because I always remember hearing the quote of be of as maximum service. It's like people cut off the God part too. And it was just about being of maximum service and just all, you know, always getting you to do service.
Yeah, I'll read it. The sentence actually involves people too. So I'll read the full sentence. Okay, so page 77. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. That's what the big book says. And my sponsor had me highlight it.
Oh, I bet she did. They loved that one.
Sure did. Sure did. I love it when you say that. Bernie-isms.
That's funny. James said, I always knew AA and alcoholism was bullshit. Well, you were ahead of the game because I sure didn't.
Sure didn't.
Sure didn't. It's incredibly abusive to call someone a dry drunk. My dad called me that once. And this guy who acts like all my problems are from alcohol. Oh, yeah. Once you get to the label that you are an alcoholic or an addict, everything in your personality, everything about you is that. It's so annoying. And even your family members, everyone is conditioned to look at you. Society is conditioned to look at you as the addict, the alcoholic. Like you're just othered, you know?
Yeah. Plus, it's great branding. You know, Bill was a genius salesman, in my opinion, because he also was like building AA right when, you know, there was a huge push in propaganda. So he wrote the big book in 1938. Started writing it in the end of 1937, I think, or had the idea, and then wrote it in 1938. So in 1920s, the end of the 1920s is when Hitler was in jail and wrote Mein Kampf, which is all about propaganda, and then got out and then started leading the Germans, obviously, through a lot of propaganda campaigns and stuff like that. So what was happening in the world at that time was just this awareness and things being written about how to control the masses and stuff. And so I don't know what Bill used in order to influence his sales techniques. I know he partnered with some people who were like superstar sales people in order to write the big book. And I know that he was a door-to-door salesman. I mean, he specifically went, this is what I heard when I went to Bill, when I was a true believer and I went to Bill Wilson's house, Stepping Stones in New York. The trusted servant there, the free laborer who was giving the tour, said that Bill Wilson was a door-to-door salesman and specifically knocked on Lois's, his future wife, right? On her dad's house. He was like very wealthy, to sell him something because he was trying to like get it in with Lois or something like that. So yeah, he was a salesman. He was selling us on his ideas. Where did that quote, which one was I replying to? Oh, dry drunk. It's incredibly abusive to say someone's a dry drunk. So one of his genius things, or one of the genius ways that they brand and market AA essentially, is they take these conditions like we talked about, restless, irritable, and discontented, and brand that as untreated alcoholism, and then sell the cure to that untreated alcoholism, which is the 12-step program, right? So you take normal human conditionings, restless, irritable, discontented. Some of us might be feeling some of that right now. Most of us feel those things within any given month, right? Just like we're going to feel angry, bitter, and resentful with any given month. We're going to feel all the fucking human things. So we're not pathologizing us. Don't pathologize us. It's called being a human.
Yes.
Times are good, times are bad. Go fuck yourself. I mean, come on. Okay. So, but to brand having a hard time at life, or struggling emotionally, or being an asshole as dry drunk. And then, so the solution to this dry drunk is obviously to work your 12-step program, right?
Yes.
So he's branding like unresolved trauma, essentially. So what I think dry drunk is pointing to, because it points to real stuff. When they say allergy, when they say fatal progressive disease, when they say dry drunk, they're not just totally crazy. They're pointing to real phenomenon, and they're just labeling it something. They're guessing. They're having an idea about a phenomenon. The problem is they kind of present it as if it's like a medical fact, or people interpret it as if it's like a medical or an addiction reality. So the dry drunk, in my mind, what I think it is it's a dysregulated nervous system. It's somebody who has unresolved trauma in their nervous system and they're dysregulated. It could be unacknowledged or, unsupported neurodivergence. Yeah. Maybe it's ADHD. Maybe that's making them, their impulse control different, or their executive dysfunction, their executive functioning being different, or whatever. Or maybe it's a so-called personality disorder. I don't really like that term. Or maybe it's something going on with their mental health or their personality or their nervous system. But it's all labeled as dry drunk. And then Bill's selling the solution. The cure to this dry drunk is to work the steps harder, be rigorously honest, make all of your amends. Did you confess? Did you do your nightly inventory? Did you do your gratitude list? It's like, no, bro. Like I'm literally in fight or flight. I'm in chronic stress in my nervous system because I haven't resolved my trauma yet, but you call it dry drunk. And the solution to dry drunk is what? To go to a church basement and be rigorously honest, hold hands, say the Lord's Prayer, like all the things.
Work the steps, baby. Work the steps.
I won't take naltrexone, that's for sure. It would interfere with my cannabis medicating. Would it? I'm going to look more into that. I didn't think that it would, that naltrexone affected cannabis, but I, again, not researched on that subject at all.
It blocks the opioid receptor, so it's not a good idea for somebody who is actively using, I think, heroin to do naltrexone, because it's going to send them into withdrawal because they're not going to get the effect. So it could be dangerous for some people.
For heroin, but cannabis? I don't know. I'll have to look into it.
Bonnie says, Bestie, you liked the show Pluribus. Pluribus, am I saying that right? It's all about the idea of groupthink and abandoning yourself. Do I have any old school ravers up in the house today? Anybody else? Was anybody else like freaking the speaker with glow sticks back in the day? Like, I loved a good rave. And plur is a term. Does anybody know what plur is from the rave days? Plur is an acronym we used in the rave, and it stood for peace, love, unity, and respect. That was like our dog. That was like our little dogma, plur. And you'd be like, plur, plur. And it was kind of like a joke. Like, we kind of made fun of it, but it was also kind of like the vibes, peace, love, unity, respect. So I'm going to write this down, though, in all seriousness, because I'm going to check this out, Bonnie. I always love recommendations, and I learned so much from the comments. So I always appreciate recommendations for books, for where my thinking is inaccurate, or for shows or whatever. Pluribus. And that is a show. Okay. I'm going to look that up. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just reading here. So this is just a quick Google search. I'm going to look into it more and then I'll report back. But yeah, combining naltrexone and cannabis can be complex and potentially problematic due to their interaction within the body's reward systems. The effects vary depending on the dosage and whether the individual is a chronic or intermittent cannabis user. So definitely something for me to look into. So thank you for that, James.
I think your camera popped out.
Oh,
Bub says, love this channel. After about a few weeks of AA, I was like, what the hell is this? regarding you're not powerless is very true. You are powerful over your own sobriety. Yes, we are very powerful, and that should not be anyone who's telling you you're not powerful is trying to control you, is kind of how I think about it. Now, of course, that's not like an absolute, right? I try to steer clear of absolutes, but it's kind of giving I want to control you.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to my camera. It's weird.
Kate says, like in church, if you do bad shit while you're in AA, you are absolved by God. Yes, just make your amends and pray about it. Pray for them. If they made you mad, pray for them. Yeah, I don't know. You kind of look blurry and frozen. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Yeah, no idea. Oh, I don't know what I just did.
Maybe there's a button that'll like, did you pause yourself? Maybe there's like a pause unit or something.
Let's see. Guess I'm just audio. Sorry, because I don't know what's going on. I'm hitting all the things.
So we have Bubba Pug says, I also think one of the indoctrination techniques of AA is 12 steps to make someone more subservient. It can be broken down into way fewer steps. Yeah. Hey, Tara, I noticed that you went dark when you went on your phone. So I'm wondering if you did something on your phone, because I know you're streaming to your accounts too. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea.
Okay, I'm removing you and then I'm adding you to the stage. Did that work? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Now I see nothing but a black dot.
Yeah, I can remove you and I can add you. Sorry for the technical difficulties here, guys. Do you want to like pop all the way out and then come back in?
Yeah, let me try that.
Let's see, and I'll continue. I would love to see someone or a large contingent of us set up a table outside international and state conventions with a big sign saying alcoholism is not a disease. Prove me wrong. John, that's hilarious. Totally. I definitely don't have the desire to go speak deconstruction stuff around AAs, but everyone's got to trust their own path and what they feel inspired to do. And then welcome back, bestie Bernie. Welcome back, Bernie. Bernie in the house, burning down the house. Are y'all loving your weekend with Bernie or what? James says, I was reading their book today. I think part of the damage AA did is all these little copycat mini cults. They use the same repression denial model. Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah, the amount of alternate 12-step groups there are for like overeaters, like gamble. There's so many different ones. It's terrifying. Lindsay said, hi, Lindsay. When I started speaking out about my own experience and how I use cannabis in recovery, someone who is higher up in the recovery community messaged me and told me they still drink bourbon occasionally, but in their outer world, they are repping NA like it's God, and that confused me even more. How can you back something like that and not practice what you preach? I wonder how many others do the same thing. Dude, the amount of messages that I get from people who work in the field and say, I agree with your message, I do XYZ, but I can't say anything because I will lose my job. And I don't want to be like, well, I mean, they have to pay their bills, right? So I totally understand. But when I did a speech in Revere in September, I said, I don't want to start anything, but I guarantee you there are people here who do drink occasionally, smoke weed sometimes, and none of us know about it because they feel like they can't be honest about it. The rooms is filled with people like that. in just recovery community, the recovery industry, but people don't say anything because of all the stigma. Honestly, it's insane.
Yeah. Kate says, Bill is not proud of members making doorknobs their higher power. Yeah. I think if you're religious, or if you take the religious part of AA, the religion of AA, because it's not a part, it's the thing.
Yeah.
Seriously, like, you're conscious that it's religion, you're into the religion. I think that would be offensive that somebody is. And also, it's kind of bananas turning your will and your life over to a doorknob. Like, it's just like, it's just like gaslighting, pretending that it's not God by calling it a doorknob when it's really all about surrender. And nobody's going to surrender to a fucking doorknob like that. I mean, it just doesn't even make any sense. But they're just trying to make it an easier reach for people, because a lot of us, most of us, I would say, don't want religion when we just want the bad stuff to stop happening when we're drinking or using or whatever. We don't actually want religion. We want the problems to stop. We don't even want to stop using, most of us, or drinking. I didn't want to stop drinking. I just was like, I knew I was about to die. I was like, I didn't want to die. So for me, I wasn't even choosing sobriety. I was choosing to live. And choosing to live meant that I had to stop drinking. That's what it felt like at that time. Although I didn't know about Sinclair method. And ideally, I would have started Sinclair method, like naltrexone, 10 years before I actually ended up getting sober, because then I could have gone on a different trajectory with my life. But yeah, the idea of the doorknob, I mean, it's either offensive or laughable or somewhere in between, depending upon your perspective.
Yeah, because even the groups that I belong to, like DAA, we would call being able to make the doorknob your higher power, we would call that AA light, or people who weren't really working the program. So I would say it definitely depends on the group that you're in that would even accept making a doorknob their higher power. That's AA light, bro. You guys aren't working the real program. Kingman said AA is wordism and a dictation. And am I saying I parse the roots? Addiction.
Yeah, Kings Mason, I've seen some of your other comments where you say like AA isn't anything to leave. It's like a language, or it's words, or something like that. Forgive me if I'm not exactly quoting your comments right. And I've thought a lot about that. And like, yes, AA is a place. Technically, there's meetings and stuff, but really the ideology lives in our head. Really, our thoughts get reformed by AA. And I've really taken what your comments have been to heart, and really like contemplated what I think about it. And when the people who seem to be in 12-step ideology, and they kind of troll the comments, right? When they say AA is not a cult, because someone said like 2 days ago, they're like, there's not like a tunnel that like, they don't like trap you underground in a tunnel. It's not a cult. And I'm like, I don't really know of any cult. Cults typically don't use tunnels to trap their people. They use words. Like, it wasn't like Charlie Manson had a gun at the ladies' heads. It wasn't like Jim Jones had, you know what I mean? They use words to get you in. So it is a language in your brain. It is the words. The words are the control. And then the words are repeated, like the slogans, like it works if you work it, it works if you work it, and you're worth it. And, and it sucks if you don't, or whatever. Like, whatever you like, you hold the hands and you chant as you bang your hands up and down right after you did the Lord's Prayer, but it's not a religion. Not at all. And it's not a cult. But yeah, it's definitely, the words are how we get controlled.
Yeah. And it like normalizes it because you just hear it repeatedly. So it just like, yep, that makes sense. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm behind on the comments. Sorry, guys. Nelson saying Tara's being haunted by Bill's spirit. Were you having a Ouija, when you went dark, were you having a Ouija board moment? Were you in Bill's spook room over there? Channeling the higher power? Bill's higher power. Is Bill's ghost your higher power?
Billy!
That's so funny. Hey, do you guys like I'm asking you specifically who is watching right now, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching the replay, do you like when we do these with a specific topic? Like we were looking at powerlessness today. And for me, then I look at some of the books and I want to read you guys a little bit about whatever the topic is or whatever. And then we look at our own experience and we ask you questions. Or did you like the very first ones we did where we were just doing Q&As and we just kind of showed up and was like, what's up? What's on your mind right now? And we just literally went through the comments and answered and had a conversation that was strictly on the comments. So do you prefer a theme, like a topic for the Burning and Bessie Live, or do you prefer like a Q&A style? I'm just curious because I'm having fun. It's a vibe for me, but I also, obviously we're creating this for you as well. This is about all of us.
Getting hot.
Lindsay says, it works if you work it, you die if you don't. And we got Billy Badass. And Kate says, the difference between AA and NA is that in one, you are powerless over substance, and the other over your behavior. It's deeper and darker. What's up, Blue Butterfly? I like you two having a topic. Okay. Like the Bubba's Pug says, like the live streams. And then we got Deacon says, I like the topics. Mix of it all. Okay. Topics are, Dale says, topics are great. Barefoot, great as well. Just love the opportunity you're all providing. Okay, cool. Patrick says, life is better with your videos. Oh, sweet. Yeah. I learned so much from doing them too. Like I have epiphanies and awakenings, like little mini ones. I'm having spiritual experiences during the live streams where I'm like, remember last week on the live stream, I was like, oh, wait, the lady who worked at my non-12-step rehab was 5 years sober in AA and was talking about AA stuff. I bet she told me I had a fatal disease. So much for non-AA, non-12-step AA or rehab.
Yeah.
James, I like this Q&A thing. Okay, so maybe like and Kate's saying, I love the topic. Nelson saying, yeah, I enjoy the theme, but it's cool when we branch out organically. Okay. Yeah. Sarah, I like the way you've been doing it, occasionally reading comments from your notes or thoughts, but also responding to the comments. Okay. Comment, your notes help. You're right. Okay, cool. Take a group conscious lull. Yeah, I'm 369. We're gonna do the conscience to the window to the wall. What's up, people? What do you like? What do you want more? I'm gonna keep coming back. Thanks. Yeah. Okay, cool. So I think that means like topics are good with the engaging with the comments as well.
Yeah.
That's my feel on this. James says realizing AA is bullshit, and that I was indoctrinated into a cult since childhood has been the best step in my own personal recovery. Mm-hmm. Sure is.
Yes.
Yeah. When I think about deconstruction, like it's so liberating. It's like one of the most liberating journeys we can go on, especially as somebody who was like a former true believer in AA cult religion. The deconstruction journey is so, I mean, for me, there's been a lot to unpack, but it's also so self-motivating because I keep unlocking more freedom for myself in my mind, in my life, in my emotions, and all of it, that it's just like, I just want to keep going and then at some point, everything has a lifespan. At some point, I'll feel like I'm good. Just like at some point I was done recovering from alcohol or anything, right? And I just feel like it's so liberating. And so for me, it's like a really exciting journey to be on in that sense.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely liberating. That is the word, you know. It's like a whole new world. And every time I think I'm done and like, okay, I got this, then something else opens up and I'm like, David said, I like the topics, makes me feel like I'm at an A. Don't say that. Makes me feel like I'm at an AA meeting, only I like your topics way better.
It's funny. A lot of the commenters that I've been getting seem to think that like maybe I'm just one rogue person who left AA and had a bad experience and then is bitter, angry, and resentful. Therefore, I'm talking about it on the internet. And I'm like, the reality is, if we think about statistics, if AA works for about 5% of the people, like if we think about a couple years, right? That means about 95% of the people who walk in the door of AA bounce. We are not the minority out here. Out here is the majority. People leave AA. That's the minority group. It's just that a lot of us stay anonymous, stay silent, don't say a thing. And some of the people leave and don't realize that there's a deprogramming journey on option for them, or that they already even are programmed, or maybe they weren't in as deep as somebody like me who pops out was like, wait, that was all bullshit. What the fuck? So we are in the majority. I mean, not like it matters, but really that was like something for me to realize. I was like, oh wait, if 95% of the people bounce after a couple of years from AA, that means there's a lot of us out here. It's not that there's just a few people or there's one or two voices, which if you're in AA, it might seem that way, but yeah. So if you're just freshly leaving and you're thinking you're the only one, there's a lot of people in my DMs constantly. Most of them are happy that I'm speaking. Some of them are letting me know that I'm an asshole. Oh my God. I got this one yesterday. It was like, spirituality is love and you're filled with hate. What the fuck? Da, da, da. And I was like, bro, if you know what spirituality is, then why the heck are you telling a stranger, projecting hate onto a stranger? Like, where's your love, pal? Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, it's insane. It's funny that you say that though, because I remember, because I was, like I said, I was deprogramming as I went. And that used to be something I used to say all the time, was like, we are the majority, like we're not the minority. That was like a big, just you saying that, it clicked for me, because that was something I said all the time. It was a big thing for me in this journey, was realizing that I'm not part of this tiny bit of people who were part of the unfortunates. It's most of us, and I think for me, that was to know that, like you said, it doesn't really matter, but to know the overwhelming amount of people that have also experienced this in some capacity was huge.
Because we leave and it's like, I think I'm alone now.
Yes.
There doesn't any cults around. We're just not talking, and we're fucking traumatized. A lot of us are traumatized. Exit trauma is a thing. We're like, wait, what the fuck was all that? And then like, can I trust people? And I don't want any authority over me. And like, what do I think about spirituality and prayer? And like, it's a lot.
It is a lot.
Kate says the format is working, so work it if you're worth it. And Existential Chris says, let's invite our higher power by saying the third step prayer.
God, I offer myself to thee.
But yeah, God, I offer myself to thee, but it's not a religion.
No.
Remove me of the bondage of self. Someone's like, it's a self-help group. I'm like, no, now that I know the word that I can't pronounce, guys, you're going to watch me learn how to pronounce this word. Self-diminution. I think I said it right. Now that I know it's a self-diminution program, not a self-help program. We are abandoning self. I offer myself to thee, like relieve me of the bondage of self. No, I want to be myself. What do you mean?
Build with me and do with me as thou wilt. There's some shit. Like,
but it's not a religion. And you could have a doorknob relieve you of the bondage of self.
Yeah.
Just keep turning the doorknob. Keep turning it over. Blue Butterfly says, hey, Bernie, are you doing a table somewhere soon?
I'm not doing anything in January. I am not redoing it, but I am redoing like a bunch of my stuff. There's more that I want to talk about, like with rescue breathing, and more that I want to talk about for cannabis related resources. But I will be doing a dispensary in February, but the winter is kind of my slower months. And then I do more in like this summer, like from the summer to December. So yeah, thanks for asking.
Cameron says, so true, so liberating, so relate. Thanks. Yeah. And Lindsay says, your song Sims got me like, I'm the same damn way. Oh my God. You know what is so bad about it is like, I will do it with the same one over and over and over again. And sometimes like, if I'm your friend, I don't mean to, but like, if you say something once, I might lock that in my head, make it a song and sing it every time I see you. And I'm like, once I've like understood like what the autistic brain does, I was like, oh yeah. Okay. Oh man. Yeah. Echolalia or whatever. That's a vibe. Totally a vibe. Let's see. Okay, we're almost at time here, guys, but let's just see a few more comments. Existential Chris, love the name, by the way. I just stopped thinking about my sponsor daily after 5 years of deprogramming.
Wow. Wild, isn't it? Sarah said, I just learned Bill W. wrote the Triangle of Self-Obsession pamphlet. I can't believe I used to say it was a favorite pamphlet of mine just because others I admire loved it and it seemed so deep. You know, half of my personality in AA was like mimicking other people who had what I wanted. Gross.
Sarah says, I do the same thing over and over. You do the same thing over and over, expecting different results. Is that about my echolalia? Is that about my thinking it up? I can't help it. It's just, and I'm not trying to help anything. I'm not trying to inventory myself. I'm not under the microscope. I'm not wondering what about my character defects. I'm just like a vibe. And if you don't vibe it, then vibe a different way. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just going to be me. And I repeat what people say like a song. It's just kind of weird, but whatever. I make up nicknames for pretty much everybody that I've ever met, right, Bernie?
It's
like,
true.
I was like, can I call you Bernie? Is that weird?
I was like, no, actually, I love it.
I went weekends with Bernie. But see, the thing is like, that's what's been so liberating. One of the liberating things about leaving AA is that like my quirks aren't to be inventoried. They're not to be prayed away. They're not, it's going to make me cry. Like there's a level of self-acceptance and self-compassion I have now, which was impossible when I was inside those church basements, literally being told to pray away my monotropic thinking and my hyper focus. And these things that I know are in pretty much more, not fixed because the brain's not fixed right, but are pretty stable and have always been there in my life, that I'm not trying to label, pathologize everything about myself and pray it away and inventory it away and asking a God of my understanding or a fucking doorknob to remove my neurology. It's like, no, why don't I just be who I am, and whoever doesn't like the party that is me can go to a different party, right? Like I don't need to conform for belonging. I don't need to pathologize myself to try to be like the group or whatever. It's like, no, let's just be who we are. And if you don't like someone, just move a little further away from them. You know, I'm like, whatever. I don't like everybody. You don't have to like everybody. Right.
No, totally. I agree with that. Learning to just be who I am and just being okay with it and not constantly wanting to pray something away that's liberating too.
Marina wants a song. You know, often I'm thinking in my head now, the songs usually come with a dance too. It's usually like a physical thing. And people are like, oh, I'm like, oh. Oh my God. This is just like, we've just gone on a tangent here. A tangent. My tangents having tangents up in here. Sarah says, how dare you actually accept yourself? They don't actually want people to accept themselves. It was impossible. It would have been impossible for me to fully, although I thought acceptance was my answer, right? I thought I was accepting people, myself, but it would have been impossible because the way AA was positioned and the way my sponsor in the book and the ideology was positioned and the way I was told to think about it and the way I did think about it, positioned how I am naturally as defective and as something to fix. And to me, that's being on a very destructive treadmill to nowhere where you're constantly working on yourself. That's like, what if I had to do an inventory every day and pray away my bones or my eyeballs or something that's kind of fixed about me? And that's how I see a lot of the work in AA. It's like, it's going nowhere. I mean, I got relief, like telling people some of my secrets, even though I think that that's coercive and fucked up. Confessing some of my secrets in my 5th step did actually relieve some of the shame from me. I had a sponsor who like was basically saying me too at some of these things that I felt a lot of shame around. So I did get relief from some of the work that I did for sure. But in general, most of what I was inventorying, most of my so-called character defects were actually things now that I just lean into, embrace, rock, or I just have optimized my brain with nutrition, movement. I love light therapy. I'm really big on detoxification and light therapy. I do like a red light panel every morning. I have like a brain zapper helmet thing that I wear. I do these little things. and it makes my body function better. So it's not about praying it away or inventorying it away. It's about understanding my neurology through modern science. I know some of you guys have heard this before, but yeah, AA was like a dead end, like a treadmill going nowhere with a lot of the work for me.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'm like, you guys are so funny, said Sarah. Sorry, I have to pee.
Nadine says authenticity and AA do not mix. Yes, but we think we're authentic in there, right? We think everyone's telling the truth in the in there. In the rooms. Sarah says, I once heard someone call sadness a defective character in a meeting. Yeah, bananas. Yes, I can imagine treating a medical condition with science. Totally. Okay, guys. This has been so much fun. Thank you for being on here. You're not a pickle. If you didn't hear the good word, you're not a pickle.
No, sure not.
Sure not. I love it. No pickle. This is the no pickle party.
Pickle party. Oh, I love you guys. I'm literally about to pee my pants.
This is not a pickle party, but it is a pee your pants party. Tara, go right ahead. You are powerful.
Wait, you guys might hear me pee. Bye.
Did she go? Is she going? All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for being here today. It's been a pleasure. If you, we had all these, oh, the pickle. Let's see. We can remove her. I am not a pickle. No vinegar up in here. Yeah, this is so funny. She pulled a Batman. The pickle party is coming to an end. It's a party of one at this moment with all y'all here. Let's see. And we have my doorknob told me to stop going to meetings and to get my shit together. You know, it's always good to have a doorknob of your understanding that's within reach, to have conscious contact with the doorknob. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here for Bernie and Bestie for the topic of powerlessness. Whether you're watching live or catching the replay, feel free to leave any recommended topics in the comments for upcoming live streams. It's always fun to vibe. And I like to do a little research so I can read some books with you so we can bring in some, you know, educated, like not just lived experience, but also some other people in the field who, can share their thoughts on the topics that we pick. So let me know what topics you want to talk about. Sarah saying, please keep coming back, James. And Lindsay's saying, I'm just over here thinking about Pickle Rick. Yeah. Okay. All right. Bye, everybody. See you guys next time.